Before we get into today's gameplay, what is Canadian Highlander? Canadian Highlander is a 100 card, singleton, 1v1 competitive Magic the Gathering format that utilizes a points list alongside the vintage banned list. There are no sideboards, and the only companions are the ones in your deck. Each deck must contain a minimum of 100 cards and contain no more than any of one given card, except basic lands and any cards that explicitly state that any number can be played, such as Relentless Rats. Canadian Highlander allows you to play with some of the most powerful cards ever printed in Magic's history. The format is balanced by the point system, where select cards are assigned a points value. Each deck can contain no more than 10 points, which allows freedom to play powerful cards such as Black Lotus or Ancestral Recall, but limits how many you can play to prevent format homogeneity. Links to more information about the format, the points list, the Canadian Highlander Discord server, and today's deck list will be posted in the video description. Now, let's get into the games. Let's start off by showcasing our players and decks. I am JumpShot22 and I am playing Gruul CradleHoof. This is a primarily green deck that aims to play lots of low mana value mana dorks to create lots of mana, convert that into an overwhelming board presence, then end the game with a CradleHoof Behemoth type effect. My deck's points are Mox Emerald, Soul Ring, Minsk and Boo Timeless Heroes, Natural Order, Strip Mine, and Wrenn and 6. This deck's point spread focuses largely on fast mana and tutors to be able to consistently turbo out big threats to overwhelm its opponents. My opponent is Yetinator, who is playing Medium Boros. This red-white deck plays tons of fast mana pieces to cast early 3 and 4 mana value creatures to overwhelm the board and lock out its opponents. Coupled with the best removal and disruption pieces in the game, and this deck can lock out its opponents as early as turn 1. Yetinator's deck's points are Mana Crypt, Soul Ring, Mana Vault, and Ancient Tomb. This deck's point spread focuses entirely on fast mana to increase consistency with casting early, game-ending threats. Both players kept starting hands of 7 cards. I won the die roll, chose to go first, and get to start us off. I play a basic forest. I cast Mox Emerald. I cast Ignoble Hierarch. I cast Haywire Might. I pass the turn. Yeti draws for turn. He plays a Wooded Foothills. He pays 1 life, going down to 19, and sacrifices his Wooded Foothills, finding a plateau. He casts Esper Sentinel. He passes the turn. I untap and draw for turn. I play a Wooded Foothills. I move to combat and attack with Haywire Might. Ignoble Hierarch's Exalted ability triggers and gives Haywire Might +1/+1 until end of turn. Yeti declares no blocks and takes 2 damage, going down to 17 life. I cast a Survival of the Fittest. Esper Sentinel triggers, and I pay 1 mana to deny Yeti a card draw. I pass the turn. Yeti untaps and draws for turn. He evokes Fury, exiling Pyroglyph as an alternative cost to cast. Fury enters and triggers, dealing 2 damage to both Haywire Might and Ignoble Hierarch, killing both creatures. Yeti responds to the Fury evoke trigger and casts Ephemerate, targeting Fury. Ephemerate resolves and is exiled with his rebound ability. Fury is exiled and then returned to the battlefield under Yeti's control. Fury triggers and Yeti declines to target anything with the enters trigger. Yeti plays a Karakas. He moves to combat and attacks with Esper Sentinel. I declare no blocks and take 1 damage, going down to 19 life. Yeti passes the turn. On Yeti's end step, I pay 1 life, going down to 18, and sacrifice my Wooded Foothills, finding a Commercial District. Commercial District triggers and I surveil 1. I choose to keep the card on top of my library. I untap and draw for turn. I play a Kessig Wolfrun as land for turn. I cast Fanatic of Rhodas. I pass the turn. Yeti untaps and moves to his upkeep. In his upkeep, he casts Ephemerate from exile, targeting Fury. Ephemerate resolves, and Fury is exiled and then returned to the battlefield under Yeti's control. Fury triggers, and Yeti targets Fanatic of Rhodas with 4 damage, killing the Fanatic. Yeti draws for turn. He plays a Battlefield Forge. He casts Thalia, Heretic Cathar. He moves to combat and attacks with Esper Sentinel. I take 1 damage, going down to 17 life. Yeti passes the turn. I untap and draw for turn. I pay 1 green mana and activate Survival of the Fittest, discarding an Elvish Mystic. I search my library for an Elvish Reclaimer. I cast the Elvish Reclaimer. It resolves and enters tapped due to Thalia. I pass the turn. Yeti untaps and draws for turn. he plays a basic Plains. He casts Synth Eradicator. He moves the combat and attacks with Esper Sentinel, Fury, Thalia, and Synth Eradicator. Synth Eradicator triggers, and Yeti exiles a Nim Pakal 1000th Moon from the top of his library. He chooses to leave a Nim Pakal in exile and gain 2 energy. We move to damage, and I take 13 damage, going down to 4 life. Yeti passes the turn. I untap and draw for turn. Seeing no way to survive Yeti's next combat step, I concede, and Yeti wins game 1. In game 2, both players mulliganed, keeping 6 cards and putting 1 card on the bottom of their libraries. I chose to go first and get to start us off. I play a Stomping Ground, paying 2 life, going down to 18, and Stomping Ground enters untapped. I cast Haywire Might. I pass the turn. Yeti draws for turn. He plays a basic Plains. He casts an Ocelot Pride. He passes the turn. I untap and draw for turn. I play a Bayou. I cast Fanatic of Ronus. I pass the turn. Yeti untaps and draws for turn. He plays a Flooded Strand. He pays 1 life, going down to 19, and sacrifices his Flooded Strand, finding a plateau. He casts Charming Prince. Charming Prince enters and triggers. Yeti chooses to gain 3 life, going up to 22. He passes the turn. On Yeti's end step, Ocelot Pride triggers since he gained life this turn, and he makes a 1/1 white cat creature token. I untap and draw for turn. I cast an Expedition map. I play a Boseiju who endures as land for turn. I pass the turn. Yeti untaps and draws for turn. He plays a Crystal Vein. He taps and sacrifices Crystal Vein, generating 2 colorless mana. He taps 2 additional mana and casts Winota, Joiner of Forces. He moves the combat and attacks with Ocelot Pride and a cat token. Winota triggers twice since Yeti attacked with 2 non-human creature tokens. The first Winota trigger resolves, and Yeti looks at the top 6 cards of his library, putting a Luminarch Aspirant onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. The second Winota trigger resolves, and Yeti looks at the top 6 cards of his library again, this time putting a Death Greeter's Champion onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. Death Greeter's Champion's backup ability triggers, and Yeti targets Ocelot Pride. Ocelot Pride gets a +1/+1 counter and gains double strike until end of turn. We move to blocks, and I block the cat token with Fanatic of Ronus, taking a total of 9 damage, going down to 9 life. Yeti gains 4 life from Ocelot Pride's lifelink, going up to 26. He passes the turn. On Yeti's end step, Ocelot Pride triggers since he gained life this turn. He makes a 1/1 white cat creature token. Also on Yeti's end step, I pay 2 mana and sacrifice my Expedition map, finding a Gaia's Cradle into my hand. I untap and draw for turn. I play Gaia's Cradle. I cast Kogla, the Titan Ape. Kogla enters, and I target Winota with its fight trigger. Yeti responds and evokes Solitude, exiling Boromir, Warden of the Tower, as an alternative cost to cast. Solitude enters, triggers, and Yeti targets Kogla. Kogla is exiled, and I gain 7 life, going up to 16. Kogla's fight ability resolves, but since it is no longer on the battlefield, nothing happens. I pass the turn. Yeti untaps and draws for turn. He moves straight to combat. At the beginning of combat, Luminarch Aspirant triggers. Yeti targets Death Greeter's Champion, putting a +1/+1 counter on it. He attacks with all of his creatures. Winota triggers twice since he is attacking with 2 non-human creatures. Yeti looks at the top 6 cards of his library, putting a Witch Enchanter onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking. Witch Enchanter triggers, and Yeti targets my Haywire Might. Haywire Might dies and triggers, gaining me 2 life up to 18. Yeti's second Winota trigger resolves, looking at the top 6 cards of his library again. He puts a Seasoned Dungeoneer onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking. I have no blocks, take 21 damage, and Yeti wins the game and the match. Wow, what an incredible showing from Yetinator's Medium Boros deck. He was able to get out to blistering fast starts in both games and had the perfect answers to counter my plays and go over the top of my board and overwhelm me. We saw the strength of being able to cast Fury and Solitude for free with the revoke cost. Fury decimated my board in game 1, and Solitude was the perfect response to my Kogla after tapping out for Winota. This game truly showcased the power of 3 and 4 drops in red and white. The MVP of this match goes to Winota, Joiner of Forces. Being able to cast a turn 3 Winota to then get 2 additional creatures on turn 3 led to an absurd number of creatures. Yetinator's build really showcases just how strong an early Winota can be in Canadian Highlander. That's all for today's video. Please comment below what decks you would like to see played on the channel. If you'd like to be featured on the channel, you can find me on the Canadian Highlander Discord server looking for games and chatting about decks. I hope you enjoyed the video. See ya.